Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point Podcast. Everybody's doing well. We are back here on a Tuesday. We are taking a week break from Breaking Bad. We finished season 4 last week. We'll be back on it a week from today. But most teams are, it's crazy, through 10 games of the NHL season, and some of them are great. Some of them are in the middle. Then there are your train wrecks, Chicago, Montreal, Arizona, to name a few. But to break it all down, we're going to go through divisions today. We'll talk about, Shamus's favorite topic, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll dive into them. But Shay, I know you're a big Halloween fan. How was one of your favorite holidays this weekend?
Good. It was quiet, He has passed out candy, just being an adult. So it was great. We got a whole 3 kids on our street. It was fantastic. So now I have like 80 candy that I have to consume on my own, which is always fun. But yeah, no, one of my favorite holidays is Shooter McGavin. So it was fun. It's not bad.
Yeah, you didn't want to go as happy?
Someone else was happy.
Did you get to choose who you were?
I took the latter. I was more mature than that other person. We'll say.
Right. Yeah.
Leave him unknown.
Yeah, I can think of who that person might be. Yeah. That's good on you though. Shows maturity. You're homeowner now, passing out little trick or treaters, candy, stuff like that. Like you're growing, man. You're doing good.
Yeah. I wouldn't have saw myself into this position 2 years ago. So yeah, this is eye opening.
Yeah, no, 3 trick-or-treaters is great too, because then you could say you had some, but then you don't have to like be at the door every 5 seconds and pretend like you care.
Let's be honest, if any trick-or-treaters came to your house, or maybe some did, are they getting turn around and leave, or are you passing out something?
I wouldn't have had any candy, so I don't know what I would have given them. Cliff Bar, maybe I could throw that in.
Oh yeah, that's a decent one. Kids might not like it, but still, it's nutritious, healthy.
Yeah, banana.
Don't be that guy. Those people who pass out apples, I've got one of those before.
Yeah.
Toss it right away.
Any kind of fruit, any fruit or like a toothbrush, you go egg that guy's house. But good for all the little trick-or-treaties out there, for all the kids that got to enjoy it. And good for the people that get to play dress up. So I like that too. Shay, we're almost 10 games in to the NHL season. It's been fast. It's been going by. We saw 3 stars of the month today: Ovechkin, McDavid, and then your former, one of your faves, Freddie Anderson, also player of the month, 7-0 for the Hurricanes. Before we get into everything else, I wanted your reaction to see Freddie Anderson on the player of the month, right up there at the top of the list.
Does it hurt? Yes. But am I, going to be super upset and slam my fist on the table and cry like a baby? No. I mean, he was a great goaltender before, he got to Toronto, and obviously the media and everything else, just some guys can't handle it. And, he was one. And, but obviously he's playing really good now. He plays in front of a great team. I'm sure we'll get into the Hurricanes, later on, but no, that I've got nothing but good vibes for old Freddie Anderson, the Ginge.
Yeah, some might say the media, some might say he's actually got a defense in front of him now. His former organization, they never seem to address that position. They don't like to address it. So, but kudos to him. I mean, 7-0. Carolina's the only remaining undefeated team. I mean, Florida lost in the gimmick, which basically doesn't count, but they're red hot as well. We're gonna go through each division today, everybody. We'll talk about the Canadian teams, and I thought we'd start with the bottom of the Canadian teams, and let's start with Montreal, where it's bleak right now in Montreal. The best news you can say is that Carey Price is going to come out of the player assistance program. I'm happy to hear that. I hope he is doing well and he can get back on the ice soon. But Cole Caufield sent down to Laval, 1 point in 10 games. Gallagher, who has 2 points. You got Toffoli, who has 3. It's bad when your leading point getter is Drouin, and I want to wring his neck every time I watch him play. But Montreal, I think their season's almost over, Shay. I think it's almost you start 2-8. It's really hard.
Oh yeah.
From that.
Oh, absolutely. I think getting Pricer back is right away is going to be a confidence boost. Just his presence around. Yeah, he's
Mm.
just such a leader. So it will be, but I think it's almost too far gone now. I just think there's already been too much damage done. What I was going to ask you is Cole Caufield, sending him down, and I had this conversation with a good friend of the pod, Cole McDonald. Sending him down. Say he starts lighting up in Laval. Do you leave him down there for extent of time? Because I mean that feels like a waste. If he goes down there for 3-4 games and then you bring him back, do you leave him down there for a couple weeks?
I think if it's me, I leave him down there for a minimum of 10 games. And I think
Oh yeah. Okay.
that's a good period of time where he's going to feel it out and you're going to see if he's successful or not. Because he might start as tonight and he gets a hat trick. That doesn't mean you should recall him tomorrow, because players that are highly skilled, it's tough to be good down there because it's a different league. It's more physical than the NHL. That's for sure. The way it's played, and I want to see him play at least 10 games, feel it out, get some confidence when he does come back up. Because the worst thing you can do is he's sent back up and then he's put back on a top line and he's like, okay, I have to be superhero again. And then you're back to square one.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's how I feel the same too. I thought at least if maybe a couple weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, which is probably what you're thinking as well. Yeah, and there's a lot of expectations on Jake Allen beginning of the year. Obviously, it's not his. I don't think it's his fault at all. I don't know if you feel the same, but I think their team has just kind of fallen in front of him, and then he's kind of have to deal with this mess that he's been given. You see Suzuki now has 4 points in his last 5 games. Okay, well, maybe he's starting to turn around. No goals yet. Hoffman's got 4 goals since joining the squad. Well, they are getting contributions, but I guess it's not by everybody. Joel Armia has looked really, really dry his first 10 games of the year.
Yeah.
They need him to pick it up. But yeah, it's Deneau leaving, not having Webbs, not having Pricer. It's really affected their team overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, and asking Jeff Petrie to be a number 1 defenseman, Edmonton tried it, did not work. And Savard is a good defenseman, but he's not Shea Weber. And I hate the way Ducharme's been treating Romanoff. I don't know if he has just a vendetta against him. He's benching him in the postseason for Eric Gustafson. Hello. But I like that. I think the kid's got major upside. But defensively, this team is horrid. I mean, they make terrible decisions. They can't break the puck out of their own zone. Again, you have players that try to hurt his own team, like Jonathan Drouin, who, we back check harder from our couch. We honestly, to go grab a snack, we try harder on the defensive end than Jonathan Drouin. And if I was a head coach, he would drive me nuts, because there's times where you're like, dude, this guy has so much skill. He's got so much potential. But you need a mix of both. And you only get it one way from him. And when there's nights when he doesn't have it offensively, he's basically a non-factor.
Oh yeah, he's a pylon out there, and guys are blowing right by him. So it's yes, he's leading their team offensively, like you said, but if you're not bringing that every night, if you're not a point per game getter, well, people are going to notice right out of the bat. And like I mentioned earlier, not having Deneau as that second line defensive center to take on some of the best lines in the league, it's obviously hurting not only Suzuki but Deneau as well. Or not Deneau, Drouin.
Yeah, and Dvorak, I didn't love that trade when they made it. I always said I thought that was a desperation move, and he's never done it for me. If I see Arizona wanting to sell off pieces, that makes me really worry, because if they don't want you, who the hell will? Who does? Yeah, Montreal. It would shock me if they made the playoffs, because you can't be 2-8. I mean, you at least get a couple OT losses in there. They haven't gone to overtime. They lose, and they lose by a sizable margin when they do.
Yeah, getting pumped. The only team that I think it was their second game, maybe against Detroit. They played really well. They beat them like 5-1, maybe 4-1. But yeah, other than that, they've just been getting demolished by all ends. And even if they were to turn around, which I think they will, in the sense that they'll grab a win every year. Yeah, they're still not going to make it end, because I think this division, you got Florida, Tampa. God, if the Leafs become half the team they can on paper, then they should be better than Montreal as well. So yeah, it's rough for Canadiens fans to think that this early into the year, okay, well, we're basically a write-off. What do we do now? Do we sell the farm? Do we become this middle team where we get a shitty draft pick? There's all kinds of things going through your head, but I wouldn't know what to think right now.
Yeah,
All you know is you're not a playoff team.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you're not a playoff team. You just gotta hope that Suzuki can continue to grow, have a good season, and hopefully Price can come back. I mean, that's really all you can hope for right now. Yeah, they play Detroit this evening, and just to compare that, Detroit, who people say stink, which they're not that great, but they have 10 points. Montreal has 4. That tells you something. And people are actually excited about Detroit because Lucas Raymond, my guy, Moritz Seider, rookie of the year. You heard it here first. But yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, love him. Let's go to your Leafs. Yeah, we'll stay in the East because all the good teams are in the West. So far. Anyway, so far through 10 games, I think that's not a hot take. If you look at the records, Edmonton and Calgary, pretty good. Your Leafs beat the Blackhawks. They beat Detroit. Saturday night, they tried to throw that game away, but Mitch Marner got on the board, his first of the season.
Yeah.
I wrote in our little lead up to starting that the Stars have been Casper the Ghost. And like Austin Matthews, I watched that game Saturday night. I did not notice him once. And even last year when he didn't score goals, which was rare, you noticed him because he'd be all over the puck and he's playing a 200-foot game. And that's what really made me excited about him. He hasn't shown up. Marner, I mean, he's just reading too much into the media and it just seems to be in his head. And, the team's not playing very well. But I look at the Stars, number one, they just haven't brought it yet.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, they'll like 2 leading scorers last year, and they look like they could be sent down at any time. 2 points throughout 6 games for Matthews is like ridiculous. He's got to find a way. Everyone kept talking about, he had such a great first game when he played New York that time. He was all over the puck. Well, that's great, but it's great to look good, but to perform good by putting the puck in the back of the net's a different thing. And
right.
Yeah, we're seeing a totally different version of him compared to last year. I thought he was defensively, he was much better last year. He was all over guys. This year, he's just, I don't know, like to your point, he just looks like Casper the Ghost. He can't stay on guys. He's letting guys get by him. He's behind the net. Well, guys are in front, putting in. I don't know. I don't know how you fix it. Do you think this is solely a media thing? And now that it's, like you said, it's in their heads, they can't seem to get it out, or, what is it more than just that?
I think for Marner, it's a big media thing because he's from Toronto. I get the sense Matthews doesn't really care because he's from Arizona and he's kind of got that cavalier attitude, which I can't appreciate because you can't listen to media every day. Because the thing about Toronto, it's great media when you're winning. When you're losing, it can get down a rabbit hole of, hello darkness, my old friend. But for Marner, just, they won Saturday night. He got a goal. His line was great, but it had nothing to do with him. Like Kerfoot and Tavares played very well. He didn't equate, he wasn't in that equation. I thought Tavares finally had a good game. Honestly, he's another guy that I look at and say he was signed to be a number 1 center. They're supposed to have 2 number 1 centers. He's been a number 2 for too long. And for them to really have 2 lines that are threatening, Tavares needs to pull his own weight. Maybe this was a sign in the right direction.
Absolutely. Because if you think about it, if he was a no-show Saturday, well, they were going to lose that game 100%.
100%.
Like, no doubt he had 3 points, and you could say, well, if he decided to have an off night or something was going wrong for him, well, they were done for sure because Detroit was all over them, in my opinion. And thank God, like, not that I think Mrazek's a miraculous goalie,
he played
but
well.
Thank God he made some saves. Like, because if he would have shit the bed, then they were taking that loss for sure. So yeah, it's tough to watch. I mean, Nylander, he's not he's trailed off, but I feel like he had a really strong start. Now he's got to kind of mask that and bring that consistently throughout. I mean, if you look at their next 3 games, they're playing Tampa, Boston, and Vegas.
Yeah.
So like there's like you're going to be tested, and I think this is where they're really going to need to answer. If you're Matthews, you're thinking, okay, I got to come out here and I got to have minimum 2 goals throughout these 3 games if I want to, a bounce back. People are thinking people were giving him the Rocket Trophy basically before it even started. Now he's not even in contention. He's not even in that, whisper in that race.
No.
So you think about it, yeah, it's on them, but of course you can change the line as much as you want. Last year it seemed like Matthews and Marner played more together. I don't know why.
They played almost every game together.
This year too?
No, like last year.
Saturday?
Last year they hardly.
Oh yeah. So I'm kind of wondering why that's not their go-to. Maybe Keefe sees something different. Maybe he wants to give different guys different looks. So I think sending them back together and kind of keeping this Tavares, maybe Kerfoot, Nylander line, maybe that would work. But yeah, what are your thoughts on my good friend Morgan Reilly getting paid?
Yeah, this is a tough question. I like Morgan Reilly. I thought he could have been the captain of Toronto. Yeah, we've talked about that. He would have been my pick. So I think he's a very good leader. I have no problem with them re-signing him because he's been there. He's been through the fact that he wants to stay after all he's been through there. I mean, I'm being facetious here, but he went through 2013 meltdown, lost. He's been through it all. He's a good soldier, a good guy. There's nothing bad when it comes to just his presence. Nothing bad you can say about Morgan Reilly, about him personally. His money, I can't really complain about it because Adam Fox got 9.5 yesterday and he did win a Norris, but he's played basically a season and a half in the NHL. Seth Jones, I think, is better than Morgan Reilly, but he makes, Dougie Hamilton. A lot of these guys make a lot of money. 7.5 compared to 9.5 is a good bargain, even though I don't think he's number one defenseman. However, it makes it tough because now you have 34 making 11.5, or the hell he makes. Marner making the world 11. Bill, you got Johnny T. Like this team, their salary cap is going to be with 5 guys, and I'm sorry, but it's going to be very difficult to win a Stanley Cup or even, be competitive year in, year out with their cap structure the way it is.
It felt tight already last year, yeah. And now it feels claustrophobic. Like yeah. I don't know what is going on. I wasn't happy, honestly. Okay. As a Leaf fan, I love Morgan Reilly. I thought maybe the time was done, and because for one, I didn't think that he would get the money that he deserved. I thought he was going to be 8 for sure, maybe like 8.25. But I was happy that 7.5. But then I'm like, oh, but 8 years, like that's
a long commitment.
That's going to be tough. Well, yeah, that's tough at the last 2 years because, yeah, Morgan Reilly's he's a fantastic skater, but is he always great defensively? No, he's not. And I would happily give money like that to a Shea Weber or someone who I know is going to be reliable in their own end, but he's not. And that just makes me worried. Does he deserve that money? 100%. He was there. He's been there through Babcock. He's been through there through Boston's, every one of those Game 7 losses. Yeah. So he's been there for the full effect. So he deserves the money, but at the same time, I just don't think it would have been for me. And also, you're looking at contracts now. You think, well, Campbell's only signed to a 1-year deal.
He's done after this year. And
if he wants paid, well, he may walk because he's like, okay, well, there's, the well is dried up for me. You got Mrazek making what, 3,
almost 4, 3.8.
Yeah, exactly. So he makes, God, way too much money. So getting rid of his contract is going to be difficult. Anyways, it's I think we're beating a dead horse here, but yeah, it's a tight situation. We'll put it that way. And I think the cap's only going to go up like $1 million. So it's not like,
it's not going to be much.
Yeah, no. It's not. It's still going to be super tough.
Riley's a good defenseman, but I agree that he's not good defensively. But I can't describe him as a offensive defenseman either because he's not consistent enough at doing it. He doesn't have a great shot. That's always been one thing I've said about him. I'd love him on the back end if he had a slap shot, but that's part of the reason why Sandin takes his power play minutes, because Sandin's just a little bit more creative. And he's kind of complained about that in the past. One thing I did like that Sheldon Keefe did over the weekend, and this is not about long-term, this is about right now, healthy scratching Justin Hall. Mm-hmm. And Justin Hall is very important for the Toronto Maple Leafs moving forward. He is a good defenseman when Jake Muzzin is playing great. I think we see when Jake Muzzin is off, Justin Hall is a below average NHL defenseman. So it's almost incumbent on Jake Muzzin returning to form. But what I like from Keefe is he's not going to healthy scratch Marner and Matthews, but he did separate them, as we've mentioned, from playing together. So that is sending a message in a sense. But Hall, they kept him in the protection from Seattle, so clearly they like him. He'll be back in the lineup, but just send a message. We're not going to accept that level of play here, and I like that from the head coach.
Yeah, it's a little slap in the face, but I mean, Hall's got to know he's not playing well. I mean, he's hearing it. He heard it from Matthews the other night. You yelled down at the bench like, "What the hell are you doing on the blue line?" So yeah, clearly it's a good sign. You're giving Liljegren some time to play, even though we know we've talked about this before. We don't know if Liljegren's even going to be an NHL or not. You still give him that chance, and yeah, Hall just, I mean, he needed to be something done with him. He had 7 games. He's been, your favorite stat, -7, and he's just been awful. And you make a good point. I don't know whether Muzzin's got a lingering injury or if he's just had this kind of crappy first few games of the season. But yeah, when he plays bad, Hall just looks that much worse. I've always said Hall has kind of more been a good third pairing defenseman than he has a second pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
But because of the cap and because the Leafs kind of screwed themselves, they don't really have this option to just kind of put him down there. They kind of have to put him up there.
Yeah, and they need him to be good because Dermott playing top 4 minutes is like that's scarier than Halloween. Like that's
the fact that Dermott still
like Mike Myers that music just comes on like that is blaring in Sheldon Keefe's ears about 10 minutes into every game because he sees Travis Dermott's already played 5.5 minutes and then he just starts to panic.
Yeah, he's going to be on the darts here soon, thinking about Dermott. Stressing out. I can see it already. But yeah, I've never liked Dermott, if we're being honest. The fact that he's still with the squad, I think he's kind of ridiculous. I would have much took some bum from the KHL or, over in Sweden than re-signed Dermott for what we did. And yeah, it's pathetic. I don't know why this guy still plays on here. Sorry, Dawson. I know you love him, but it's just not working.
Let me ask you this. Same money, Zaitsev or Dermott, who are you taking?
Zaitsev.
Yeah, I'd probably take Zaitsev too. And I don't like him at all. But I'd probably take
a good segue into the Sens.
Yeah, let's segue into Ottawa Senators. Slow start, to say the least. Last night, just an embarrassing loss to Chicago, who did not have a win. 5-1 loss. This team, they have a lot of holes still. I mean, good start for Drake Batherson. He's had a great start to the year. Nova Scotia kid, so got to love to see that. Stützle has been very quiet for me when I watch them. I'm like, okay, where is he? He's another guy that I'm like, I'm a little worried about him. Norris has looked good, but Matt Murray, this guy is hurt every other day, or he's got an illness, or they signed him to a deal. They didn't protect him. That's how little they think of this guy. But also, he pisses me off because he reminds me of Ben Bishop. And Ben Bishop, his favorite thing was every big game you need him, he's got an injury or something's wrong with him. And for Matt Murray, he's making all this money, and now all of a sudden he can't show up to play. Like, this is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I have it written down here. Do you think that Gustafson's shortly going to be their go-to guy because he plays better and because he's there?
Right. Yeah. I would, to be quite frank, man, I this team's not going to win many games this year. We know that. I think they're going to be, they're tough out. They play hard. I give them credit for that. But I would rather have Gustafsson and Forsberg the rest of the season because those two are going to compete. Are they going to allow bad goals? You bet. The defense is not great. I like Zub on the back end. Shabbat's a good player. I wish they call up Brandstrom. Nevertheless, thanks, Pierre Dorian. But I'd rather have those two kids playing, and you can see if Gustafsson's your goalie of the future potentially. Forsberg's a solid. We saw him play against your Leafs. He had an unbelievable game that night. Then Matt Murray, who's flaky and makes all this money, and I feel like he's just entitled. Like he feels like he deserves to start. That's not how this works.
Yeah, just because they're willing to give you that does not mean you've earned it. And yeah, it's been ridiculous. He just, I mean, the fact that he can't show up is, like you said, is just one thing. And I think solely he's just going to get beat out because he's just not going to be available. Doesn't really matter how those other guys play. If he can't be there, well, what the hell are we going to do with you?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, unprotected. He's been kind of a joke since leaving Pittsburgh, but I mean, who says one thing about the Sens, they lose a lot of closer games. I would say like a goal, 2 goals. So they do keep it competitive, which is, what I like. Not last night, obviously that was kind of a shit show losing to the Blackhawks, where dumpster fire. But one thing you've brought up in past podcasts, starting night, Toronto and Ottawa, that is almost like offendable how they would do that, or even the Battle of Alberta. Oh, like I was almost sick to my stomach when the schedule released, and then I was thinking, am I even going to watch this? I did watch it, but it's just almost pathetic.
Made no sense,
and,
right?
Yeah, no, it's just so stupid. Played back to backs. It is actually ridiculous that this. Who is making, like, I wonder who sits down and thinks, whoa, we got to go back to the well and think, we got to play these guys.
Right.
It's just pathetic. But yeah, no, Sens keep it competitive. They're obviously, down there, but goals for, goals against 20 to 25. That's not unreasonable. And especially when you look one, let you lane down, you got Montreal, who's, 19 to 34. You're like, okay, well, it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. Kind of like having a bad stat line, but the guy behind you just doing incredibly worse than you are.
Right. And yeah, like you said, Golden Knights Leafs tonight, that's refreshing because they didn't play
100%.
last year. Like seeing Rangers Canucks this evening. I'm excited for that game. Like just we haven't seen them in a year. We don't need Toronto, Montreal, and then Toronto, Ottawa twice in the first 3 games.
Those types of games should be spread out the most of any games.
Right.
And that's for any division. Like you want to see those games as less as possible, unless maybe you have like a really, like, I can understand why they went New York, Washington. Well, they got a little hatred there. Yeah. Yes, you did play each other, but you're anticipating something big. I'm not anticipating anything watching, Montreal and Toronto play. No. I know what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. You don't need to see Vegas, LA, spread those out. Like just spread out those division games. Like you can do it. Like you have a lot of other teams and just throw them in on a random day. But yeah, we're on the same page there. Next down the list, let's go to Vancouver. I was high on the Canucks. They've not shown me the love yet so far this year. Demko's been pretty good, honestly. I think Demko's a solid goaltender, but I think this team around him has just been really inconsistent. They're 3-5-1, 7 points, not great. They play the Rangers tonight, like I just mentioned, who have been on fire. So good. And again, I think the Canucks have played the Oilers twice already. I think they've played the Flames once or twice. Like, I can't make the schedule, but nevertheless, the Canucks, Elias Pettersson, I expected big things. He's been way, way too quiet so far.
Yeah. Petey, he's not, he had last year. Okay. He's injured. Maybe he just had an off year. That's great. You know how you answer that? By having a hell of a start to bounce back from that. You just got paid. You cried about this contract. Oh, I don't know if I want to be on a losing team. Well, what do? You play better. If you're playing at the top of your game, it's easy to cry and complain. When you stink, don't cry and complain to anybody, because it's, you know, you're digging yourself just deeper and deeper into this hole.
Mm-hmm.
3 goals between Besser and Pedersen is just not acceptable. I mean, the reason this team's losing is because those 2 guys just can't get it together, it feels like. I
Yeah.
personally have only watched maybe a couple Vancouver
Yeah.
games,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. Like Pedersen has just not been great since he's been
I
on the ice.
watch them and I'm like, they don't get blown out. They're all low. It might be 4-1 because they can't score. Like Horvat's had a good start to the year. Quinn Hughes
Garland.
actually played okay. He's always going to have his defensive efficiencies, but he's playing okay. They got a young defensive core. They gotten rid of a lot of, Garland's been great. Pissing off every player in the league, which is exactly what you want. And kudos to him, because watching him in junior, I hated him more than probably anybody else. But what he's done to get to this level, kudos to him.
For sure.
But Demko and they need more consistent scoring. They need more consistent scoring chances, and that can come from the back end. But you have a young back end. You need guys like Pedersen to show up to play. And I look at this team. You lose 2-1 to Edmonton. Demko at 34 saves. You got to win that game. Like, I get it, Edmonton's off to a great start. We'll touch on them, but Jason Dickinson's got 1 point. Hoglander's my guy. He's played well. But Horvat again's been okay. But JT Miller, come up. Podkolzin, can you bring anything to the table? So they're waiting for guys to kind of arrive, and they're kind of left on the train tracks where teams have. It's tough for them too, because teams have started really good and they've played a lot of them early on in the year.
Yeah, I had a lot of hope on Paul. What'd you say, Podkolzin?
Podkolzin, yeah, Vasily.
Yeah, coming over. I mean, he's this high draft pick. You think he's going to be, this stud, especially he's getting chances to play with some of the top guys, with guys like Besser not starting the year, and he's been disappointing 1 tuck. So yeah, you just need more guys out there. Alex Chiasson was a decent pickup, I think. He's a guy, he's going to be in the front of the net. He scored a really nice goal the other night, where he just basically sits in front of the net and deflects pucks. That's if that's all you can do, well, you're still gonna get goals, because guys need to get there. That's every winning team has a guy in the front of the net who's willing to get beaten the shit out of. But at the end of the day, we'll take the eyes away from the goalie and deflect pucks.
Yeah, they lose to the Oilers, like I just mentioned, and 8-1 start. They are chugging along. As a Leaf fan who lost Zach Hyman, are you excited to see him do well in Edmonton, or does it hurt you to see him in another uniform?
I kind of debated this. I think it does hurt a little bit, in the sense that we need him. We need a guy like Hyman right now. We'll get to, I think Bunting is a lesser version, but he's an okay guy of sorts, who doesn't mind getting the shit beat out of him. But I mean, and if right now Edmonton's at the top of their game, this is one of the best starts they've had in years. Yeah. And, I think Hyman's a big part of that. He's got 6 tucks. He, gets to the front of the net. He's been decent on that top line. Yeah, just overall happy for the player, but I guess salty, because I wish that was, I wish that was us. And right now we need a guy like Hyman. He's an Energizer bunny. He's out there getting gritty, and yeah, he's the shovel. We just need a guy like that right now. And unfortunately he's other places.
Yeah. And for Edmonton, for me, their defensive play is so impressive, because normally that was their weakness back in the day. But I think they're playing really good team defense. They've got players positioned well now. You look, they got Warren Fogle, and they got players that can just play hard. Chris Russell is slotted appropriately, and Zach Cassian's on the third line. That's where he should be. He's not a top 6 player, and they're just gritty. I think they'll miss Ethan Bear, but they have forwards that will help their defense core. And you mentioned Toronto. I think that's something that they lack, where their forwards don't try as hard to be good in their own zone, to protect the puck. The Oilers under Dave Tippett they've learned a system that he's about protecting the puck, at the same time getting scoring opportunities from good defensive play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of turnovers. A lot of the reason why they get on those, on those breaks, and they have great passers. Nugent Hopkins got 11 assists already. We're not going to talk about. We don't even have to mention the two-headed monster, but yeah, 100%. One thing that I've heard over and over about the Oilers from multiple podcasts, multiple shows, is about getting this great start, Juggy, because they're going to get ahead in this division. They're going to get so far ahead that they can kind of get on cruise control. Maybe winning their first 25 games out of 40 or 42. Do you think, do you agree with that? Do you think that they need to be this consistent all year and dominate, or do you think they need to take more of a Tampa route where it doesn't really matter where you end up as long as you show up when it matters?
I think I agree about the hot start because it gets you, you can settle in. You're going to have stretches where you lose 4 in a row and your Koskinen's out to lunch, and you're going to have your tough moments because every team does. But to have that cushion, like you said, to be 8-1, to have 16 of 18 points, I mean, that's as good as it gets. It's such a luxury. And I think you have a coach in Dave Tippett who he's going to be happy his team's doing well. But in February, when you get tired or you come back from the Olympics and guys are like, oh, I don't want to be doing this right now, he will keep them focused that, yes, we might have an off night, but that next night, we're not going to be sleepy again. We're going to come out, play our game. And of course, like Toronto, like a Boston, like a lot of teams, the regular season's nice, but we'll see when it matters most. But the way they're playing can correlate to playoff success.
Yeah, absolutely. And this power play that's been so hot for the start of the year, it's not going to keep up. You know what I mean? Like, yes, obviously it'll be still really good, but eventually that does wear down. And then that's where, the Kyle Turrises, the Ward Fogels, that's where these depth guys come in handy, because obviously they need to start contributing on these 5-on-5 chances. So it'll be interesting to see, whenever that does, maybe the Oilers break a record or something and have the best power play that's ever been done. Right now, I think it's running Barry, McJesus, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Nuge. Is that what it is? Yeah. I think
maybe Puljujärvi.
Or Puljujärvi, sorry. And yeah, it's just been working on all cylinders. So really, really good to see. One thing that I love is that Duncan Keith, no one complains about the 40-year-old and, that trade, I hated that trade. Why'd they go him and, his cap? Well, no one has said a word since these guys have just been dominating their division. So it's almost refreshing to see. And, I'm not an Edmonton fan, but I do love the fact that he's been a well fit there. He's not going to have 40, 50 points, but if he can bring that experience, and obviously he can play with a little bit of grit, which every time I've seen Edmonton play, that seems what he brings night in, night out, then he's obviously an effective, second pairing kind of guy.
Yeah, no, for people that Edmonton plays late, throw them on the PVR. Just watch a period, because this team looks completely different than they did last year. They don't look the same. They were sloppy. They won games because McDavid was out of this world. He's still playing unbelievable, but they're winning. Like last night, he was just okay. Draisaitl went legend, and he puts on a clinic, and they can just play good hockey. They had Mike Smith's hurt. Koskinen's in the net. They're winning games. It's hard to do. No offense, Mikko. Let's pivot.
He's been playing pretty good though, actually.
He is. Yeah. You expect an 18-wheeler though eventually with him, because eventually he'll lose his glasses or he'll have LASIK surgery, and then the puck will, something Vesa Toskala will turn into Mikko Koskinen. Calgary Flames, another team out west that's this is the biggest surprise to me of Canadian teams.
Absolutely.
No one's harder on the Calgary Flames than me. And I'm not saying I'm wrong yet, because we're 10 games into the season, but they're off to a wicked hot start. I know we talked about them. We watched one of their games against Washington. Elias Lindholm playing well. Gaudreau's off to a great start. Even Monahan's this whole team's contributing. Mashinapani, just a energy bug. That little guy, he just finds ways to get on the scoreboard. And to me, though, Shay, the biggest thing with this team They didn't get it last year. Maybe it's because it's his first year from signing, but Jacob Markstrom's playing like he did in Vancouver when he was the MVP for basically two straight seasons as the team MVP. He's been unbelievable so far this season.
Calling it now. Give him the Vezina, baby.
Wow.
First, only played 6 games. Give him the old Vezina. No, he is having an amazing year. But, overall, Juggy, what do you think's causing this? Do you think it's, everyone's shitting on them basically from last year? Do you think, a couple guys like you mentioned Goudreau, Mangiapane, contract years. Do you think they're just kind of lighting it up, thinking about dollar bills? What do you think's causing all this? Daryl Sittler, you can, is it him?
Yeah, I think definitely playing for Daryl Sutter is tough because you're not going to play if you don't play his system. And their defense, one guy that I've noticed, and this is a quiet addition, he'll never show up on a box score. Eric Goodbranson has been a really sneaky good ad for this team. I thought he was very good in Ottawa. I thought he was great for that team. Yeah, they didn't win a lot of games, but you know what you're going to get from Eric. He's very good defensively. And what was this team not very good at? Oh, wait, defensive play, including their defensemen, Anderson, Valimaki. These guys need to get better. Having a guy, and that's something that I really think they need, and that's something that they needed, and that definitely helps. So I like what he's been doing, what they're doing there. But I would say playing a system and then just Gaudreau being that elite player that we think he can be. He too many times he just hasn't been that. He's just been an average player. And I think we've seen him take his game to another level this year, which we've seen in seasons past.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, he wants to obviously stay with the team, hopefully. And, he keeps having a year like this, he'll be more than welcome back. Good point on Goodbranson, though. He's been a breath of fresh air, I think, losing Giordano. Rasmus Anderson, we talked about him before, pushing him to be this top pairing guy, this guy who does it well on both ends. He's been okay this year. He's got 6 apples. He seems to maybe have gotten more comfortable into a role where he's able to control play. We talked about Zadorov. I think he's only played maybe a handful of games for them. So yeah, their back end looks okay. Doesn't look maybe terrific. Oliver Shillington's looked pretty good. I will say that game that we watched, I thought he was okay. But yeah, Calgary, who knows? We shit on this guy. Anyone would have had Calgary missing the playoffs this year. And Vezina, if the Vezina winner keeps it up, or the soon-to-be Vezina winner keeps it up, and the rest of the team plays around him, I think no doubt these guys can do something special and maybe make a playoff appearance.
Yeah, they're a fringe team for me. So if they can continue to play well, that would surprise me. But we'll see. Good start. They got the Preds tonight. So good chance for another victory as the Preds have been off to a shaky start. Phil Myers was a healthy scratch the other day. So they've been, they're not a very good team. Let's close out Canada with the Winnipeg Jets. They have been kind of like Toronto, a mixed bag so far this year. Connor Hellebuyck not had the greatest start to the season. They've dealt with COVID woes. Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele's been out with COVID. So, goaltending, their defensive play, they're still trying to find it, in my opinion. They got Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon, new additions back there. But one thing I can say that I'm so happy about, because I like the guy a lot, and I thought he'd bounce back. Pierre-Luc Dubois is off to a great start, Shay, and he looks like Pierre-Luc Dubois of latter stages of his Columbus career.
Yeah, I had it written down. I didn't know. I mean, he has looked good, and I can be honest, I haven't watched a ton of Winnipeg, but what I have watched, he's looked good. I didn't know if he's getting carried by Kyle Connor, who's having this unbelievable start to his year, 7 goals, 7 assists, just absolutely lighting the lamp. So I don't know whether he's been getting carried by that or if it's just him playing in this first center role. Think about him in Columbus. That's when he did his best work. Maybe last year he wasn't there. Maybe he didn't have that confidence. Now that Scheifele's only played a couple games, he's had to step up, and hopefully that carries over when Scheifele's in the lineup. What you want is a dominant 1 and 2, And absolutely, you just want Pierre-Luc Dubois to keep this up 10 points already. And yeah, no, it's been fun to watch. Cop's been really good too this year. And if you think about what you said earlier, you got no Scheifele, no Wheeler, and hardly any goaltending. You're like, oh, okay, well, Winnipeg sucks. Well, they're second in the Central right now, and they at times they look pretty dominant.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been a team that they lose to San Jose Saturday night. They show good things, but they haven't exactly played great. But they have a lot left to show, in my opinion. Hellebuck is still a fantastic goaltender. Their defense should get better. I mean, just playing defensively, maybe points in the back end won't be elite level with Schmidt and Dillon, but these guys are both hard-nosed defensive players that know how to play the game. You see Brendan Dillon fight Marcus Foligno, which is, I love both those guys. I mean, Foligno doing the Superman punch I love that shit. I know you do too. And, I think Winnipeg's got toughness. They got skill. If Dubois can be that guy, I look at Dubois similar to a John Tavares, where they're both pretty good defensively, but if they can be a really good second line center, both the Leafs and the Jets have the potential to be real threats for the Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. The addition of Brendan Dillon was great. Washington, it landed Winnipeg in a great situation where Washington needed to get rid of a defenseman. They picked him up. And yeah, no better way to show your team that you're there and you're committed than to take on one of the toughest bastards in the league and Foligno. So no doubt that you love to see it, because obviously he's sticking up for his team. One thing about their schedule that I found funny, Anaheim, the first three, they've played Anaheim 3 times in the first 7 games. I thought that was so odd. Not that maybe just happened to be that way, but it's again like this spread. Like we don't hardly see it.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at my phone. I'm like, damn, they're playing Anaheim for a third time already. This is just crazy.
Yeah, they've already been to California twice. I was like, what? Like, they're playing San Jose Saturday night, 8:00 games. That's 4 p.m. I'm like, why are they back out here again? Like, again, yeah, they didn't play them last year, but could we not do this later in the year? Like, I totally agree. I mean, this schedule makers are just idiots. Like, they don't care about their product, clearly, because they just throw anything at the wall and hopefully that shit sticks. But but I like, as you know, I like Winnipeg quite a bit. They're 4-2-2, so they're not terrible to start the year. They've just been okay. They got Dallas tonight. Eric Comrie will make his second start of the year for Winnipeg, so he's kind of getting his opportunity to be the backup now that Laurent Brossoit is in Vegas. Let's go through the divisions here a bit. We'll start in the Atlantic. Big picture, we go Florida, Tampa, Buffalo, if you can believe it, 5-2-1. Detroit, Toronto, Boston. Toronto and Boston have both been slow out the gates. To me, I told you before the season that I thought Florida would win the Atlantic. They're off to a good start, but even with Joel Quenneville gone, for them to get 3 out of 4 points this past weekend against Detroit and Boston, that showed me a lot that this team has a lot of grit, and they play well every night, man.
Yeah, different contributors. Yeah, different, and just such a breath of fresh air for Florida. If you think about 4 or 5 years ago, you're like, oh god, and they still can't even get guys in the arena, which is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, but you're right. It's nice to see them on top. You made a great call, and them being leading the chart so far. Played unbelievable. But Bobrovsky has actually played pretty good, which probably shocks a lot of people trying to win back I guess win or keep his starting position. And everything else. I love that rookie. I think his name's Antoine Lindell. Maybe he was a first rounder. Yeah. He seems like a great young player. That's he's going to be able to contribute. They've got depth. You've got Reinhart playing on the third line, which to me is crazy, but it works. And if all this Blackhawks thing with Quinville becomes a distraction, I feel so bad for them because the players, it's none of their faults, but obviously maybe they'll end up getting some residual effect from it. What do you think's transpire, and do you think that they're going to get a new head coach here soon?
Yeah, it's interesting. They're such a good team because like I said, I think they can win the cup this year. And like I heard Torts thrown out there, and I love Torts, but this team doesn't need a Torts because they're not a team that plays really loose. Like your Leafs could use Torts.
Right.
A loose defensive team is where Torts is, best positioned. Where this team doesn't play. I'm not saying they're great defensively, but they're pretty good. But they have a structure that they play, and it works even without Q. I think you see that. But if the team likes Andrew, like maybe you go to your leaders and you kind of say, we've been through a lot here, Barkov, Hubie, Ekblad, bring them all into a room. And you say, do you guys want Andrew Brunette? Or do you want, like, what do you guys want? Like, I want you guys to continue to play with that urgency, with the same structure that we've been playing with, for most nights. And if you can promise a bill of goods, then maybe Brunette, you keep Brunette and he's your head coach for the rest of the year. And hopefully you can win the cup anyway.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if it's, it's really up to the players. Like you said, if they're happy with their guy, they know him, why not just keep him? If you think if he can be a leader and he can, talk them out of the edge sometimes, like you said about maybe Edmonton, about, later in the year, you're fatigued, you're tired, you come off a loss. Well, if he can still rally them to come back and say, listen guys, we can still do this. We can still, win games this late in the year, then, well, I mean, 100% makes sense to keep them. But yeah, love the fact that, they trim some of the fat, and, they're still decent defensemen in Strawman and Yandel, but they keep Montour from trade, picking up last year at the trade deadline. And, it's just been solid all around for their team. So can't really complain.
Ekblad's playing at a very high level too.
Yeah, like he wants to be on this Olympic team, high level, and I think there's an urgency for that now. I don't know, I can't say all of us, but I know most of us had Weber in and around that an Olympic position, and now that he's for sure not going to be able to play, I mean, Ekblad's name's got to be brought up a couple more times, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, the last 2 years he's played unbelievable hockey, so I think he's putting his name in that discussion for sure, with fringe guys like Nurse and Reilly and guys like that. So I think he's definitely going to be open for discussion for sure. Tampa's battling through. We won't touch Buffalo. We both expect them to fall off sooner rather than later, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Only thing I would say is, like, for Buffalo, yeah, you're doing okay right now, but maybe in a couple weeks before you get real shitty, why not sell a guy or two? Get rid of a guy like Colin Miller. Get rid of a guy like Gergeson's. You know what I mean? Gergeson's been there since forever, never touched a playoff game. Give him a chance to do something else somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
sell
maybe
high
if
before you're gonna buy low.
Wow, that's the thing. Like, yeah, okay, now we're 60 games into the year and these guys all have like 10, 15 points and look like they could be playing for fucking, Kent Center Bears, let's be honest. Sell them at a high. That's the only thing I when I first saw that, I was like, oh shit, like 5 points for Colin Miller. Well, get rid of him now before he becomes, a bum.
Right. Yeah. The Bruins, they play your Leafs on Saturday. Marchand's off to a great start. No surprise there. Some slower starts from guys. No Nick Foligno. Allmark's been pretty good. What do you make of Boston's start to the season?
Yeah, the few times I've watched them, they've been really tight. They've been competitive, but they've seemed to play a little less than some of the other, like some teams have like 10 games done, and Boston's only have like 7, I think. So I don't think their record right now really reflects their play, but yeah, I'm not really looking forward to Boston, and Toronto on this weekend.
Yeah.
What about you? I guess for the biggest thing, how have the additions of Boston looked? I mean, obviously, like you said, no Foligno, but
Mhm.
Allmarks look solid. You know,
Yep.
Mike Reilly and Forbert. How do you think they've been playing?
Yeah. Boston's defense has always been something that's puzzled me because I like Carlo. The biggest risk for him is you worry about him getting injured. Obviously, he's got a concussion history. That's obviously problematic. McAvoy in the back end, you know he's going to be there. He's a fixture. Um, Probably makes too much money, but that's a theme in the NHL now. But
Mm,
he's very good. But Reilly was a good ad for them at the deadline, but he's a bottom pair defenseman for me, and Forbert the same. He was a 6th, 7th defenseman in LA. So I still don't think I think they're a team that still lacks a true number one. I think McAvoy is a better number two, and I get why they want to keep him, but
Paid him a lot
defensively,
of money to be a number two, though.
oh,
You know
I
what I
know,
mean?
but
Like,
teams love to do it. Not just pointing out Toronto. I'm saying like
no, yeah,
Berensky, I'm not sure
100%,
if
yeah.
he's a number one defenseman. Like I really don't
Mm.
know.
For even Fox, I mean, like you said, a year and a
Yeah.
half. Yeah, he looks like he can be an unbelievable defenseman, but really, have you seen enough?
Yeah. You don't need to prove anything now. You don't need to win anything. You get it. Yeah, that seems how it works. We
Mm,
talk in the Metro, we talked about Carolina. New York 6-2-1. They're off to a real hot start. Shesterkin's
yeah,
playing well. My biggest thing is Lafreniere. He looks like a different guy. He looks mature. He looks stronger. He clearly hit the weight room in the off season. He's skating well, and he just looks more competitive. He looks like he's like ready for the NHL. I've been impressed with Lafreniere through the first couple weeks of the season.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's given them a chance every time he's been on the ice, and you're gonna get looks if you're playing on power play with these top guys, Zibanejad, Carter,
Mm.
not Carter, sorry, Zibanejad, Panarin. But yeah, absolutely. I think he's been noticeable. Where last year he was kind of a afterthought. So yeah, it's been good. But what about the addition of Goudreau? I think he's been this gritty guy in Tampa Bay, and I think he's
Mm-hmm.
kind of brought that over as well. A little toughness to his game too, a little
Yeah.
bite. I know you like that. What do you think of his I guess his contribution's been so far to this team?
Yeah, I like him because you know he's going to play third line. You know you're going to get from him. Like you said, he's got some bite. He's going to be play well defensively. He can help out in the face-off dot when he needs to. Even though he's a winger, he's a guy that can do take face-off. So I like that about him. Um, and really, their lineup's tough. That's what they were weak last year. And that's why Chris Jury wanted to get guys like Sammy Blais, guys like Dryden, guys like Ryan Reeves, and they're a tougher team to play against. Lindgren, I like on the back end. He's a perfect complement to Fox because he's a good defensive defenseman. He's like a Mark Mathot in his prime.
Mm,
But New York, Washington, like these two teams are both really good. Washington only lost their first game in regulation last night to
mhm.
Tampa. But I trust New York to win more than Washington
Really?
down the stretch. I get Backstrom's not playing. I like Backstrom, and of course, Kuznetsov when he wants to show up, and he's pretty good. But McMichael or Hendricks Lapierre as the third line center concerns me, and I just like the depth of New York more. I think Kako and those guys that I mentioned, you mentioned Gaudreau. I think those guys are better suited to produce than what Washington has to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Washington's, I guess, one thing about Washington, they've got okay defensemen. I don't really trust Schultz all that much.
Mm-hmm.
But John Carlson's solid offensively. But other than that, they're not great. I definitely take New York's decor,
Yeah,
even though I think Drew was a tad bit overpaid. They've got lots of good young up and coming defensemen that hopefully they're going to be around to stay, but also they're going to be tough. You think of F Fox. I mean, he's a big boy. He doesn't let things get to him. Kevon Miller, also a great defenseman, or I think he
yeah,
will be.
yeah,
So yeah, they've definitely got the potential on the back end where I think Washington as a whole is an overall aging team. You think
yeah,
about that, like Backstrom, Ovi, Oshie,
Yeah.
The only young guy really is their tender, and I mean,
I don't trust
yeah,
either
they
one of
do it.
them.
Yeah, you have a window, and I mean, for that team, I think you've got to make a big move this year, especially in the trade deadline, to pick up something nice to bounce back after the first round exit last year.
Yeah. Following them is Columbus. I think people expect them to tail off. They've had a decent start. I don't have a whole lot of faith in them. Philly has had tough because they had to go out west early. They played a lot of road games, but I think Philly's been pretty good to start the season. Ryan Ellis has been banged up, but the additions they've made have looked good. Atkinson's been, I can't believe they made that trade, Columbus, for Voracek straight up. But
Yeah,
but Atkinson is still a very, very good player. I like him. And
yeah.
I look
You
at
would,
Philly and I look at the Islanders, who only have 8 points, even though they played all 7 games on the road. I think those two teams, other than Carolina and New York, are, two teams that have more to give than Washington in this division.
absolutely. You feel for the Islanders. I always forget. Are they playing their first 15? Is it on the
First
road?
13 on the road.
Okay, yeah. So their first 13, and they've done okay so far, but obviously you'd like to be better. So hopefully when you finally get home, you've already got kind of a little head start to it. But yeah, I mean, it's totally, you kind of expect them to not. You want them to come away with, I guess, a reasonable 7-8 wins, and they've already played what, 7 games so far.
Yeah.
So they could they have room for improvement. I don't think they score as much as people thought they were going to, but you mentioned a comment last year when we were talking about the beginning of the season. The Islanders are a slow team. They gradually build until they're in peak performance, and then when they are, they're damn near good. Varmolov's also coming back, which, I mean, who knows? Maybe he comes back and takes a net from Sorokin. Do you think that's going to be a tandem? Do you think that's one guy or the other?
Probably a tandem. That's the way they normally run it. I think they want Sorokin to be the starter potentially this year come the playoffs, because they drafted him to be that guy. But Varlamov is still the better goalie as of right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So, right now, if they could run a tandem, and that'd probably work out well for them. But yeah, they need guys scoring. Anders Lee's got a really, really slow start to the year. I think he's only got maybe a point or two. Palmieri, they re-signed him. He's been just okay, but yeah, they just, they needed to get done by committee, and so far they just doesn't seem like they haven't.
No, Pittsburgh is also at the bottom of that division. Crosby's back, but I thought they missed the playoffs this year, and it's not the strongest division, but it's tougher than I thought it would. Teams are playing well in this division, so I think it's gonna be tough for Pittsburgh to get into the playoffs. Central, we go St. Louis, Winnipeg, Minnesota. Colorado's off to a very slow start. That's one thing for me. They've been disappointing so far.
Yeah. What do you think has done this? I mean, you don't have McKinnon for the first couple games, but you still have a great team even beyond McKinnon. Why do you think they've kind of dropped the ball so far?
Honestly, goaltending in the back end. When I saw opening night that Jack Johnson and Eric Johnson were playing on the same defense pair, I near fainted.
Johnson and Johnson. Yeah.
Eric Johnson is okay. Jack Johnson, I mean, that just tells you where the resources are. Clearly, they got Byram, they got McCarr. They love those two. I mean, who doesn't? But you look other than that. Ryan Murray, he's okay. He's just there. They've been playing Jacob McDonald. Yep, sounds like he's from the PEI. Jack Johnson, yeah, no. Eric Johnson, okay. Sammy Girard is, as you know, I'm not a fan. And I just think defensively they haven't been the greatest team, and it does hurt not to have McKinnon because he really drives the bus for that team.
Yeah, absolutely. No Devin Taves either, which
Yeah.
I think definitely hurts him to begin off the year, because he can be a presence, right? Like, you got McCarr. McCarr's your number one. I think that's established the minute I think he stepped on the ice. Taves is your number two more times than not, and not having him obviously is hurting them. But yeah, how do you think Darcy Kemper's looked? I thought he's been okay, I guess, not maybe fantastic, but obviously they were in a hard spot when Grubauer said, "F you, I want my money." And Kemper's been fine since then, but definitely room for improvement.
Yeah, I would say he's been okay. He's starting to see played against Colorado. Against Minnesota on Saturday. Played well, so that's a good victory because Minnesota's no slouch. They're a good team. So I think he's starting to settle in. Again, defensively, they got to play better in front of him. And hopefully, like you said, a guy like Devon Toews plays very well defensively. St. Louis is in first. I didn't expect them to be this good out of the gate. I mean, 6-1. They've only played 7 games. They're 6 and only 1 loss in regulation. They played really good hockey, and David Perron just needs to be in St. Louis and he scores goals. And he goes elsewhere, he shouldn't leave. But when he's playing in St. Louis, the guy just lights it up.
Yeah, I mean, he's due for a re-up after this year. He only makes $4 million. He led their team in points last year. He's a stud. The he's a big guy, but he's moves. He's got great hands. He'd be a good addition for any team. But like you said, maybe St. Louis is the only home for him. It's funny that the noise of Tarasenko, it hasn't affected the team. He seems to be professional about it. He's took it the right way. He's playing really, really well. They've got guys on the back end that have been doing their job. Falk's got a couple goals. Krug, I thought, has played up well offensively, which, I mean, that's kind of what you expect from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I've heard it today. Binnington, who's general managing Team Canada, and
Dougie Armstrong,
who watches them every single night. So I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Pricer's not there. Carter Hart. I mean, what other options do you got, Juggy?
Binnington would be the starter for me, for sure. Because I trust him more than Blackwood. I trust him more than Hart. Fleury's been he's playing in Chicago, so he's got that stench on him. He's won a Stanley Cup recently. He's a good goaltender. Like he would be the guy for me. Maybe Price coming back out of the player assistant program can play some games and he is the starter, which would be great. But also Binnington getting to write his own story would be great too. Him to win a Stanley Cup, win a Stanley Cup and an Olympic gold medal as a starting goaltender. That's a pretty damn good little 30 for 30 after a guy who's playing in the East Coast Hockey League at 25. Like that's a pretty good story for Jordan Binnington if it comes to light.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, really, really some bright spots on this St. Louis team. Kairos playing, kind of coming off of a great rookie campaign. He's also playing really well. So love to see it. St. Louis, like you said, maybe they weren't expected to do very much, but off to the hot start so far. But do you feel like the Jets are going to take first in this division, or do you think that maybe a Minnesota or St. Louis are better fitted for that?
I'll still go with Colorado.
Still the Avs.
I do like Minnesota though. They're a good team. Like they play hard. But yeah, I think if I look at it, I like Colorado to make the playoffs, obviously. I still would say Winnipeg because I was the highest on them of any Canadian teams. I like Winnipeg's roster. I mean, St. Louis off to a hot start, but I think I trust Minnesota a little bit more than I do St. Louis. But I think those 4 could all be in the playoffs because of the wild card scenario. The Pacific is not very good.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what a lot of people keep forgetting probably is that 5 teams are probably going to come out with a Central where only 3 from the old Pacific.
Yeah,
division.
Arizona won't be one of those teams.
It's funny, Joe. Like I don't have any notes on them because there's not much to talk about. But Jacob Chikrin, I mean, this guy looked unbelievable last year, and he's been nothing short of a ghost this year.
Yeah, that whole team's a ghost. The one guy you can name his name is Carl Vegelmaka. He's the new goalie, and he's actually playing good, but they haven't won a game because his team stinks that bad. Do they beat Philly tonight and get their first win? Hot take.
No.
No.
No, not a goddamn
not
chance.
not tonight. Not tonight for old Arizona.
No. I put my shitty mustache that I have on right now that the Arizona Coyotes lose tonight, and I'll start over on the 2nd day of November.
Okay. What about Ducks at the Ducks on Friday? They win that game?
Ducks Friday, I could see that. The Ducks are not nothing to brag about, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, okay, yeah, I gotta commit. So I'll go. They lose that first game.
That's going to be Friday night. You heard it here. Arizona gets their first dub on Friday night in Anaheim. Shamus is stating his claim on it.
But they win a greasy like 2-1-0, 2-0. It's like one of those games where this new goalie stands on his head and the team just kind of performs around him. It's not going to be like a nice like 5-2, 4-2 win.
It's not a confident win.
No, not by any means. There's still red flags. Old Shane Wright's probably thinking, maybe I'll hold off the draft.
Yeah. Pacific, we've talked about Edmonton. We talked about Calgary. San Jose, I have no faith in. Third. Anaheim, same. I guess the one team we could talk about is Vegas. They play your Leafs tonight. They're ravaged with injuries. No Stone, no Patches. Bill Carlson's out 4 to 6 weeks now. If they were in such a bad division, I'd really be concerned about this team because they are beat up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're looking at the teams in this division. You're thinking, okay, well, they could, shit the bed the first half of the year and they'll still make the playoffs pretty handsomely. Like they just have to sneak into that third spot and they're just going to be fine. And this is awful to say. I'm still worried that something might happen tonight where they come alive. Leonard, he's just been okay. I think, it's been a lot, there's a lot obviously going on outside of actual play for him. Right. I don't know. Do you think for a player like that, do you think that obviously has an effect on his game, or do you think that he's able to block that out and do his job every night?
I think he struggles with it for sure because he's talked about having some mental health issues, and he's obviously talked to Kyle Beach. Good for him for doing that, by the way. I think that was nice to hear. But yeah, I think it's tough for him because he's such a guy that's all over the place, but he does play well when he's got a bunch of things on the go. So we'll see. But if you look at the injury list, Bill Carlson, Matthias Janmark, Nolan Patrick, no surprise, Zach Whitecloud, Pacioretty, Alex Tuck. I mean, those are 6 regulars out of your lineup.
And not just regulars, they're pretty good players too.
Yeah.
I mean, Pacioretty was off to a pretty heated start to the beginning of the year. And you losing him's obviously, but I mean, it gives a chance for some of Vegas's lower guys and some guys called up from Henderson obviously to play because there's so many guys out. You just need to do it. I mean, I have confidence the Leafs will win tonight, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, anything can happen.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Vegas,
this could be the game where Matthews just pops off and everything goes back to normal. Yeah. Hat trick, and then I'm just like, okay, just back to normal.
Yeah, could be, or you could be real depressed come tomorrow if they lose this depleted Vegas roster. I guess we'll see. That game's coming up in just over an hour. Vegas, Toronto, 8 p.m. here in the Atlantic time zone. We got a full list of games tonight. A lot of good ones we'll get to. Shay, great pod today. What do you got in the go for the rest of your week?
Well, I'm going to see if Atlanta can close the door on this pesky Houston team tonight. But other than that, not a ton. Maybe just relax, I think, and just take it easy. I don't plan on doing a ton. What about you?
Same. Couple podcasts. Maybe do some watch some baseball night, watch some hockey. Do the run around, flick across, get the computer, TV going, chug that along. You know how I'd be. So watch that. I didn't mention this to you, but I did a pro line this weekend. And I actually won some money.
Oh God. So
I bet on the New York Jets.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's like a single bet that you could pull off? No,
I bet the Jets to win, cover the number against Cincinnati. They outright won, so that helped. I did a couple easy ones. I bet on the Rams to win against Houston, so no big bet there.
Okay.
And then I bet on the Saints to cover the number against Tampa Bay.
Jesus.
And
how much cash are you throwing down here?
A little over $100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You and now let me ask you: is this Sports Makes Moolah Are those his picks or are
No,
they
this is just me,
strictly come from
but
you?
Harry's always motivating me. I'll tell you that. Sports make
Yeah,
moolah. He's always getting the gambling bug into me. I'm not gonna be doing another one for a while, but I decided to this Sunday, and I actually didn't enjoy the experience because I don't root for anybody, and I don't think I'll do it again anytime soon. But hey, I got $100 out of it.
yeah, you made more money than I did for 4 years of university, so good job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed Halloween. As always, this is always a lot of fun, and we'll talk again next week as we get back to Breaking Bad.
Yeah, let's get some more Walter and Jesse going. I gotta find out what happens after that.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. So everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for all the support as always. We'll be back next week, and we'll talk soon.
My friend, I can't see you.